Hey, thanks for joining me again. This is part 9. Wow. Okay. So I felt completely at my rope's end. I was just one thing on top of the other, and I was panicking. just a little bit, So the final unraveling with Grant. Grant ended up retracting his invitation for me to join him in Australia after a couple of discussions we had that went awry, and one of them where he got really frustrated with me before the weekend we were supposed to address his relationship or friendship with his ex-wife again. I had a flight booked to Melbourne at this point. We broke it off. I tried to formulate plans to land in Queensland instead, even temporarily, but those plans fell through too due to trust issues with my friend who lived there. She said we would live together when I first got there, and then this turned out to be not the case. She had other stuff going on. And I felt like I'd be kind of like a fish out of water there, with all the other stuff going on. I just was like, I don't think I'm not gonna do very well there if I'm just there by myself in some, yeah, sure, I love Australia, but like that area, I've never been there, and I would just feel like even more alone and in unfamiliar territory. So, I didn't know what I was going to do next. The uncertainty was paralyzing. All right, so flip forward to October. I think Grant and I were like loosely in touch. Yeah. We didn't talk for like 2 weeks, and then we talked again a bit, and kind of just chit chat or whatever. It wasn't like, but it was with the, like, hey, let's work this out kind of a thing. It wasn't just friends. We were like, had a talk planned for weeks on how to, what to do, basically. Okay. With everything, like juggling everything and planning it out and all that stuff. So, finally in October of 2025 this year, I got another remote job. Knock on wood. My time living at the office was growing tiresome. The building was undergoing a change in management, and though I kept it very secret that I was living out of the building, it wasn't going to be easy to keep that secret much longer. I needed to find a decent living space where I could have my own space, my own bathroom, laundry, and kitchen. I looked around and found a suitable place. I made plans to move in and did so on November 10th. Grant and I had stayed in touch. He kept telling me he was willing and desired to restore our relationship, to work things out, to revitalize our once beautiful bond, and sort out any agreements and misunderstandings between us. For weeks, we enjoyed decent conversations. We flirted. And I kept hanging on, hoping to have the conversation we needed to have about the boundaries, about his ex-wife, and about us. It kept getting put off. Grant knew one of the issues was his connection with Teresa. It seemed he seemed to just keep me hanging on while kind of taking advantage of the flirting a little bit, maybe just kind of like hanging on to whatever. the intimate chats. I started to become more insistent, less cooperative about the intimate chats. I asked for us to talk. He promised that he would. Then at the end of November, just after I'd given him a birthday gift, just after we'd talked for his birthday, a couple days after another intimate conversation where he'd promised to speak with me about the relationship, he simply just said he didn't want it anymore. We never had our talk. So, where I stand now. So here I am, December 2025, looking, here's where I'm going to start getting emotional. No, I'm not. Looking back at the wreckage of what once was, standing in the present moment and still actively choosing to rise. I'm not going to lie and say that it's easy. Some mornings, the weight of everything still presses down on my chest, like a ton of weight. Some days, the grief of losing the dream of reconciling with the love of my life and this separation from my children is so overwhelming that all I can do is breathe. Just breathe. But here's what I've learned. You don't have to feel strong to be strong. You don't have to have it all figured out to keep moving forward. You just have to take the next step. When everything falls apart, when life strips you down to nothing, you're left with a choice. You can stay in the ruins, or you can start rebuilding. I'm choosing to rebuild. I've learned that you cannot save a relationship by sacrificing yourself. For years, I believed if I just tried harder, compromised more, that things would work out. Staying in something that's destroying you isn't noble, it's just slow self-destruction. I've learned that love across distance requires more than feelings. It requires aligned actions. Love isn't enough when actions don't match words, when boundaries aren't respected, and when promises keep getting broken. I've learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you will use the system against you. The family court experience taught me that truth doesn't always prevail, that having your children taken can happen even when you've done nothing really wrong. It's made me a fighter. Of course, I already was a fighter. Fight for survival and that sort of thing. I won't give up on my children ever. I've learned that financial independence isn't optional. It's survival. Every time I lost a job, every time I couldn't make rent, I felt the vulnerability of not having my own solid foundation. I'm working on changing that now. I've learned that resilience is not about breaking. It's about what you do after you break. I've been shattered so many times, but every time I've picked up the pieces. That's resilience. I have one more part to this, and then we're almost done. Thank you for listening.